Welcome to the Pursuit of MiSelf, the podcast. Here we take ownership of our healing. We rewrite the rules, we turn knowledge into wisdom, and we lead our lives with intention. I'm your host, Rayne, and it's my mission to empower you to get back into the driver's seat of your life. Welcome to the Pursuit of MiSelf. Gosh, this has been a long time coming. I've had the ping probably for about 18 months now, and geez, how many roadblocks do I want to put in my own way? From time to location to getting it perfect, equipment, imposter syndrome, to there's already a million of these out there. After a while, your intuition kind of goes silent. She's not listening. Well, even though I know that being ready is a choice, starting before you're ready is what is required to actually bring my medicine into the hands or ears of more of you. It still took me quite a while and a whole lot of deep breaths to get me here. But now I'm here. I did always have trust and faith that as I grew and committed to my authenticity, committed to hard work and to taking aligned action in the direction of those little intuitive whispers, the timing would just unfold perfectly. So here we are, the Pursuit of MiSelf, a podcast by me dedicated to you. Have you ever realized you've been performing your entire life? Okay, well, maybe not entire life, but a huge chunk of it, and I did. In the end, it broke me. But that breakdown, well, as my Reiki therapist would say, it's actually a breakthrough. And it did become the beginning of my rebuild. For years, and even to some extent still now, I felt really imprisoned by something I couldn't bring myself to talk about. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, I'm going to tell you I was a drug addict, or that I've been hiding something really extreme, it's not like that at all. It's actually something way more relatable that I know so many of you are going to connect with. We can all get mesmerized by those huge comeback stories, the overcoming adversity, but what about what so many of us as humans actually go through in life and can actually relate to? Something that we can pull into our heart. A life where we feel lost, deeply unfulfilled, and where the performance of living gets so much that we either fall ill or break down. Sometimes we don't even know we're in, actually most of the time, we don't even know we're in that performance. So this is a story about my personal performance. This is not a story of blame, finger pointing, or being a victim, although my ego still wants to argue with me about that. It does try. I want to share with you a little or a big piece of me so that if you're feeling lost, like life is a fake performance, or if you self-sabotage your intuition, if you don't trust yourself, if you want more connection in your marriage, or maybe even the confidence to step into your authenticity and to feel what that looks like and feels like to you, then this is for you. I share about my past life and marriage to some extent, but there's always been that fear of judgment, that fear of really disappointing people, and really their idea of my life that really held me back. I didn't need to be perfect, and funnily enough, I really didn't dip in and out of the inner work along the way. I don't need to be accepted and loved by everyone. That's never actually been who I am, but I really have moved through a lot of deprecating self-stories to be where I am. Because let's be honest, no one judges us harsher than we judge ourselves. And gosh, the judgment I felt when I couldn't perform who I thought I needed to be was harsh. So now I'm in a space where I like to think is authentic, as they say, AF to me, or as authentic as I have access to at this point in my life. But also there's this space where now that I've shown up for me, I feel called to show up for you. And hopefully some of my medicine can be the medicine that maybe you've been waiting for. I want to lead my life fully from my heart. So I come back to this memory where I had been going out with my ex-husband probably for about 4 months, not even. And we were asked to go into the Eagles headquarters. well, she was the coach at the time. And I remember having this speech and him saying to all of us, like, the boys need your support. They need to have their rest. They need to eat really well. They need to sleep. They need to recover. Basically, like, these were all the things that these men needed to thrive in their careers and thrive at the footy club. And what was interesting is I remember that memory and thinking, yes, I can do that. Like, I've got a job to do and I can do this. And I fully, in that moment, my ego went, bang, we know what we're doing now. I mention this because amongst the millions of memories my brain has experienced over the past 42 years, but even just the 25 years that I can really well remember, the ones that it wants to give meaning to or that align with my ego are the ones that we actually remember, that I remember. So this is how we reinforce our personality. My ego in that moment was like, yes, we have a job. So in high school, after my parents divorced, I became like a savior or a fixer of some kind. And this fit perfectly into that identity narrative for me. I took my job very seriously. If I could focus on being that person, that partner, that wife, and eventually that mother, I would mean something. I was being good. I was like helping. I would be enough. I'd be the good girl, but I had to be great at my job if I wanted to keep my title. As long as my vision of having the incredible, loving family, the house, the career was being achieved, I would be doing my job and I'd be creating the life that I essentially wanted. But there's a catch to that. When you do your job, but the ego is in charge and things don't go as you need them to go to feel good about yourself, you wonder what you're doing wrong. And slowly, the wheels of my life started falling off. I wasn't doing my job. I had to dig myself into this life harder. I had to do more. What I didn't know then was that I was actually yearning for connection with myself, connection with my authenticity, connection in my marriage, true connection in my friendships. But as my ego was running the show, it just kept whispering to me, you're failing. People will see you as not good enough. Your performance isn't working anymore. Try harder, work harder, do it all. Go harder at the performance. And although there's more than one person involved when we're looking at the holistic life in our reality, when my soul craved connection, I just drove myself farther and farther away from it. I really do want to mention that this is not men's fault. It's not my ex-husband's fault or even society's fault. You know, we don't need to point blame. In my case, I wanted to try this cage out. I thought that'd be pretty cool. Mother, wife, the vision of having one family for the rest of my life. I can make this work. I can do it all. But what we aren't taught is how to choose the cage, but be in it with the doors unlocked. We get in, we lock the door, we get on with life, cramming more and more things into this cage. Family, work, home life, careers, to obtain this fantasy vision that we're taught is the ultimate achievement in life until life becomes so robotic and so disconnected. Because all the ego wants is to be working towards the fantasy, no matter what. And that it all just becomes a performance. A show you essentially put on so that you can avoid the judgment, the feeling of failure, just that criticism from other people. So instead of connecting with myself, I kept digging deeper. Could I have reached out and tried to establish a connection with myself, with my ex-husband? Well, yeah, I probably could have. And still to this day, don't know if in amongst all that I did, it was enough. My ego would have me believe that I did and that he wasn't available for it, even if I tried. But is that just the story my ego was showing me to get me off the hook? Was he really not available for it? It's like the memory of being at the Eagles headquarters. That story fits my narrative of fixing and saving and having a job. So I question the evidence my brain shows me now about that time. My identity was to fix and save. So if I couldn't do that, then basically I was nothing. I was failing. And in the early days, I worked so hard to have this perfect environment, to thrive at home, for everything to go as it was meant to. I took full responsibility of the kids, worked myself into the ground, trying to set up a career for him after I retired. Not for me. I was one step ahead of it all. What if I stopped trying to fix and took a deeper breath and just tried to connect heart to heart? What if I dropped that mask? What if I stopped the performance? Did I even try to do that, or did I just too hard? This way of being stemmed further back than my marriage. It really did start in childhood. Somewhere along the line, it was imprinted in me that I had to be the best everything I did. I was bullied pretty hard in primary school. Even the principal really did not like me. I have no idea why. And I guess because I couldn't fix it or make sense of it, I decided to be the best at everything. That's where I would fit in. That's where I would feel good about myself. I was an incredible athlete. I can say that now. From gymnastics to swimming, tennis, basketball, netball, and quite often at a state level, I was really good at whatever I tried. But the moment I wasn't the best or I didn't get picked, I would quit. Now, we don't need to go back and psychoanalyze all of those things, right? Maybe that's for another podcast, but it does shape the story of how I showed up in my life as I did way before all these big things happened. So I think it's really important to recognize this for all of us, because with self-awareness and self-love, you get to hold compassion for yourself rather than judgment and shame. It wasn't my marriage that failed. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. Knowing now how disconnected I was from myself, allowing my old patterns from childhood to run the show. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. This is me, the Rayne at 42, looking back. Being the best version, if I wasn't, I was a disappointment. I failed. So I'd run. So I just want to touch on that, because what my ego wanted when I ran and when I shut down was to actually be chased, or even simply just found by my husband, honestly, or seen. But he wouldn't have known that. He wouldn't have known what to do with that. This strong woman who has everything together is having a crisis and running away. What the hell do I do with that? I mean, I don't even know I was doing that at the time. How could I expect anyone else to come? But, I wanted to be saved. And no one was there. And fuck, that is such a lonely thing, to feel disconnected, to want to be saved and not even know it at the time. So I pulled myself out of the hole on numerous occasions. And the moment I'd come up for air, it was like, who needs me? I'm back. What needs to be done? What needs to be fixed? Who isn't thriving? How can I be more supportive? All the things to try and get my confidence and validation and belonging and safety back so I'd feel good. And look, it's not a bad thing. Guiding, supporting, living up to my responsibilities and duties as a wife and a mother. It's an incredible commitment and something I longed to do. But as I slowly started to abandon myself over the years, as my brain chose the evidence that I could only support myself and my job was to fulfill what everyone else desired from me, I became even further disconnected every single day from myself, overwhelmed and exhausted with keeping up that illusion that I was like doing great. I was fine, until I wasn't. And that's really what it was. An illusion. Like, the fake identity is not me saying that I woke up and said, I'm going to lie to everyone and I'm going to be fake. We don't even know we're doing it. We're connected, required beings. This is what we want. So if we feel or get to a point where we need to be, do, have, should, for connection, we will continuously do that over and over again so that we believe that we're going to get back what we're wanting or how we should feel. This is not I'm going to present to the world purposely on a purpose fake life. This is, I am going to put this mask on to show up this way so that I feel safe, so that you love me, so that you are pleased, so that you are not disappointed, so that you don't judge. I just want to make that really, really clear. And this is something that everyone does in some way in every aspect of their life. When we are not leading from the heart with authenticity, when we are leading from our programming, we are essentially showing up with a mask, in an illusion, fake. And let me tell you how it goes when everything does fall apart, when that illusion falls apart, or someone might see you falling apart. You might let someone down, you're failing. No one judges me harsher than I judged myself. Absolutely not. You can't say anything to me that I haven't already said to myself. So even if you're striving to keep up with appearances or a fake identity, we're built to survive and belong. And when the wheels fall off, you fucked up. You see, I was seeking for things outside of me to tell me that I was good, to make me feel good about myself. And this is such a vicious cycle that I see so many people in constantly. And I'd like to tell you that this is where my journey started, but it wasn't. I was primed for this from a young age, for this personal self-development. I was reading Eckhart Tolle at 16. Crazy. My daughter's 15, and I cannot imagine her getting excited to read something like this. The pull to personal growth ran deep, and even in one of my journal entries, actually at 16, said that I wanted to coach parents on how to divorce properly for the kids. So even though I was primed for this journey, I still fell over many, many times. And most of it, not all of the time, you have to lose yourself to find yourself. That even blew my mind when I read that, actually reflecting on what I'm doing now in my career. Blew my mind. I was called superwoman on many occasions, and I wore that badge of honor with pride. My ego said, see, it's working. People see you as superwoman. You're epic. You can do it all. If I could do it all on my own with no help, then even better. And this was me. My life was a constant performance to keep up my superwoman status, even though I was dying inside. I felt powerful from this place. It made me feel good. I felt like I mattered, like I was performing my duties well. But what I was allowing people to connect with was not my heart. It was not by any stretch. It was an insatiable need to, in the end, simply be seen as the one, the superwoman, the one that had it all together, that could do it all, that didn't need help. And I lived and died by that sword. When I didn't live up to my own expectations, if I felt like I was a disappointment, my whole world would crash down, and I hated that feeling. I didn't know how to fix it. So I would go overboard trying to ramp up my fixing and make everything better and burn myself to the ground. And as I really know deeply in this energy world, even though that was the front that we're putting on, even though we're projecting from that place of not enough, guilt, shame, love me, have me belong, we think we might have it all together, we might be superwoman, you can see the evidence all around you of things falling apart, because energy leaks and it doesn't lie. So whether it's financials falling apart, whether it's friendships, whether it's the burnout, the overwhelm, the energies leak. You think you have it all contained. You think you've got it all together in your tight little cage, in your tight little group. And suddenly, as I said before, the wheels start falling off. The energy leaks. And when you are tight in your cage, you don't allow yourself to see that or connect with that because it's too hard. It's like, no, I can just keep this together for a bit longer. I can just do this for a bit longer. But all the red flags are red flagging. They're just all red flagging around you. And it's when you tighten your grip. And that's what I did. I just kept tightening my grip. You see, the cage that I'd built myself in, I was simply fighting to stay in it. I'd poked my head out a few times over the years, and all I saw was evidence that no one was there to support me. Without my superwoman mask on, I was much more liked when I had that mask on. After all, I was the strong one, the capable one. I'd do it all myself. Like, I didn't need any help. How the hell does anyone actually support that? How does that allow for anyone to step in your life and say, hey, you okay? I remember yearning for someone to see me, to be held and understood. For someone to say, Rayne, are you okay? Do you need a hand? You don't need to do all that. This is ridiculous. I yearned for this in my marriage and for this type of connection from my husband, from my friends. But you see, Like he and everyone around me was so used to this version of me that Rayne just took care of everything, him, the kids, career, quite literally everything, that even though I worked 60-hour weeks in the lead up to having a third child, yes, I gripped on that tightly. How could I expect the depth of connection from him when I was so disconnected from myself, so seeking? All he knew in the end was my performance, because that's what I'd been for so long. In fact, I would go as deep to say as like I'd been performing so long that that's the only thing anyone knew of me. So I just kept more lost and overwhelmed. But even seeing me resting would have been jolting for him, because that was just nothing, that I just would never do that. And my performance ended up failing me. I was the failure. After years of playing this good girl, trying to be the perfect attentive wife, the most capable mother, I lost the very essence of who I was and what I wanted, and in this state, so easily swayed. You have no foundation, nothing to work from. Your life is simply lived by surviving and reacting to what the others of me would like, what people would think, whether it's the media, my friends, my family. When we sold the restaurant, I'd been sometimes clocking nearly 60 hours a week, and this was with 3 kids at home. What was I chasing doing that? What was I avoiding? What was I trying to prove? Like, all the while completely running myself into the ground, completely tired, exhausted, unhappy, desperately hoping, that someone would come and save me. So we sold the restaurant, and it was like, what do I do now? What is my purpose? What is my mission? I'm not setting up a career for my husband. I don't really want to do this. I don't know what I want to do. When I'd only felt validated and appreciated from the things that I was achieving outside, like firstly as a finance broker, then building our dream home, then starting and running a restaurant with my co-owners. Take my career and my ego purpose away, and there is this gaping hole, and it was so obvious. I just felt lost. I was so unfulfilled and neglected, not good enough. I felt invisible, and my soul, it just kind of felt dead. So what did I do? I filled that gaping hole with influencing, which is actually an interesting story, because I started writing a blog amongst all of this, a blog about birth and children and supporting mothers, and I loved it. It really was the first flash of authenticity I'd felt in a really long time, and it was read widely. I didn't have Facebook, and I was told to start social media and share my work on there, so it grew very quickly. It was authentic until it wasn't. With a large following, I was put in the influencing category. And at that time, that gaping hole that I felt that needed to be filled, and this seemed like a good way to maybe fill it. My ego loved it. I started going out, attending events. I'd be a full-time mum and wife at home, and then I'd get my validation and ego from free products and from being paid to post on Instagram. Simply just being out and being someone other than a wife and a mother was filling up that gaping hole. And what cemented this even further is I was getting paid to do it. So I could look back on this time in my life and say it wasn't good for my marriage. But would that be a true statement? I jumped from one cage to the next, seeking belonging and connection that I really desperately yearned for at home. We all have those things we can point a finger at and say, that's it. It's because of that. And it could be true, but this is what my ex could point the finger at. But the only truth of the matter is that I abandoned myself a long time ago. And instead of taking my journey inwards, I continued to chase meaning and validation for my superwoman status through what I was doing in the influencing world. But the emptiness, the loneliness, the more meaningless I felt, and really the more miserable I became. I'd convinced myself that it was connection. I convinced myself I only looked at things that were authentic, but really it was so disconnected and empty. And I see this often with so many women that I work with, yearning from the connection from their work, their partners, yearning for praise from their bosses, acceptance from their parents. But when we yearn from a place where we have that gap, where we lack, from a place where we have a mask fixed on so tight to be loved and to belong, the validation or praise is only filling that void. It's not going to touch your heart. And then without a doubt, as that little bit of feel good starts to wear off, the ego needs that feeling of being accepted again. So how can we expect anyone to connect with us, our heart, when we aren't even connected to our own hearts? Because they just can't. They'll give you momentary validation that will make you feel good until it doesn't. It's like a drug. You need more and more from the outside world to make you feel good or simply just feel something. And this is the cage I talk about. This is where we lock ourselves in with what we think we should be doing. This is where we feel stuck, where we are disconnected, where our mask is the only thing connecting us to our worth. And we start to point the finger when they aren't seeing you. And when things are like that, there's no connection, because the ego feels, when it's convinced that it's them, that they are the problem. You feel good, right? Just be able to sit here and say, you're the problem. You didn't do that. It's because you did that. I feel better, right? But it's not true. This could be your spouse, your boyfriend, your children, your boss, your parents. They don't appreciate me. They don't show me the love. They don't respect me. And I want to speak into this, because let me ask you, do you unconditionally love and respect you? Are you even available for the connection, or for that type of connection, for the love and appreciation that might come to be on offer? Are you available for it? Because if there's one thing I know to be true in this, it's that you can't expect to be seen from a loving place if you don't see yourself. And this is where I was at. Couldn't see myself. I was so hurt, so lost, so confused. And I wasn't getting that connection and love that I yearned for. All I could see was that my marriage was the problem. So I left. I left with debt, a broken heart that literally was broken. I was in and out of hospital because it was going in and out of AF, and I had to be cardio averted. But mostly, I left that vision for my future life. I just left it with absolutely shattered. My ego still wants to chime in because of him. It's because of that. It's because that happened. Did you even try your hardest? Why didn't you stay unhappy? You had it all. How dare you leave? If you only did your inner work then. And some of this, if not all of it, could be true. And also the duality is it might not. All I know now is that when we ended things, I felt relief. But I want to make this clear. It wasn't a relief from leaving, but relief because I decided that I couldn't be me within that cage that I'd built for myself. It was my pain and my relief. I wasn't capable of exploring who I was within that marriage. I take full responsibility of that. I take full responsibility for my part. And now I can see that. But back then, nearly a decade ago now, the shame and guilt, holy shit. The public scrutiny, the rumors, all while we were both trying to grieve this future that we wanted. So I played the victim. My ego decided it was much easier to do that than to face my shame and guilt for leaving, because my biggest fear is being a disappointment. So I covered that up by making sure people felt sorry for me. She's doing it tough. She has no money. She has the kids all the time. She's getting no sleep, no help. The tragedy, the list goes on, right? It is much easier to not accept our part and allow these stories to run our life. The irony of this was, through this time, I was continuing my studies in energetics and coaching and mindset and meditation, manifestation. Did e-commerce courses, startups. So behind the scenes, I was consuming it all. I was seeing clients for Reiki and counseling therapy, but outward, I still showed up with my mask on because it was much safer. That's how strong shame and guilt is. That is how strong it is. And until one day, I went on a retreat. And there were a few moments that changed the trajectory of my life. And this is one of them. I remember on this retreat, Alex saying to me, this person here, the Rayne in her everyday life, is not the person you show up as on socials. I knew that there was a huge disconnect. And if I really wanted to share my medicine, I had to face my fear. And that is dropping my mask to start sharing my authenticity and who I was. So I did. I did a live, and I'll find that link and I'll put it below. But wow, it was actually so freeing, so exhilarating. And not because it was social media, but because I had decided that no matter what, I wasn't hiding anymore. I just couldn't possibly. I wasn't going to let my mask control me. I had to get in real, full, be led by my heart. And then when I faced my fear, ouch, but I pushed through. When you do move like that, something happens. You grow, you evolve, you're seen. It really is magic. You might fall over, but this is also when you're being called for more. Through finding the courage and the chaos and the fear, like the courage is actually where the joy lives. It was so exhilarating to just be like, this is me. I believe every woman and man actually deserves this and deserves to feel like this. Because I believe like that so many women especially are disconnected and leading with their masks, that if they just learn how to love them and accept themselves, go all in on themselves, in their businesses, in their marriages, like women who choose themselves are the biggest gift. And you can do this at any stage of your life. We are taught to sacrifice, be of service, don't be selfish. If you're a woman listening to this, convincing yourself to settle for the sake of X, Y, or Z, I want you to know that in all this narrative of doing the right thing, in all the stories you've been told, convincing yourself that you're settling in your life is the best thing for everyone else. I want to call you up and into some huge amount of truth here. Settling, feeling trapped, living by someone else's rules, pleasing everyone around you, hustling to be validated and seen, whilst slowly dying inside, is not doing a service to anyone. No matter how deeply you subscribe to this, it is not. Your energy is leaking. I promise you. Giving yourself permission to first and foremost be loving to yourself and to the life you actually desire. Leading from your fullness is where you get to actually have the most incredible impact on those around you. And this is what my mission is: to support, love on, encourage and guide as many women and men as I can to feel safe, facing off with their own personal cage, to move from that stuck place and to create space to live the lives that they actually want to live. Not from duty and not from sacrifice, and certainly not from waiting to be saved or to be told that they're worthy by others, but from leading from their heart, their own fullness, from their own unique inner compass that I promise you, if you just quieten your mind for a little bit, you'll hear that whisper. It is calling you forward. So this is what I desire for you. And this is what I know you absolutely need to know. You hold the keys to your own cage. You can literally make a change anytime you want. Life doesn't have to fall down around you like it did for me when you do this. I know it's scary, and I know you want to feel certainty before you move. But I also know that by not exploring your inner world, it's costing you joy. It is costing you your freedom. And really, it's costing you to live a life that you truly desire, that connection, that love. And I don't want that for you. As the saying goes, when we know better, we do better. So what do you know now? What part of you are you still hiding? Can you be really honest and take responsibility for where you're at and start showing up a little bit differently from this moment on? You can use the fuel of heartbreak and endings to completely transform your life. And you can also completely transform your life while you're in your current circumstance. Sometimes what you think is the end is quite literally the beginning of a path to stand up for yourself, to stand up for your healing, to reclaim your voice, your passions, your power, and to hopefully step more into your purpose so that you can feel fulfilled and alive in your everyday life, even if that's just simply making yourself a cup of tea, smiling, being in joy, choosing different things to do every day. But if you do choose it, you don't have to choose it. You actually don't. But if you want out of the self-loathing, of the self-pity, the shame, the embarrassment, and if you want to step into something that freaking lights you up, then yes, you actually do have to choose it, and you have to do your inner work. And I want this to be your invitation. So you might not feel ready. That's okay. I didn't feel ready to start this podcast. It's not perfect. Sure, episode 1 is going to be very different to episode 100. But here's something I've learned the hard way. Being ready, it's not this feeling that just says, oh, okay, it's a choice. You don't wake up one day suddenly feeling confident and fearless. You decide. You choose to stop waiting for someone else to give you permission, for someone else to come and save you. You choose to stop abandoning yourself and stop listening to that whisper of your intuition, to actually recognize the red flags of your life when they're going off all around you. And that's what I did, not all at once, not perfectly, but moment by moment. I chose to stop performing and start coming home to myself. And that's what I'm going to keep sharing with you, because there's more to my story. Yes, so much more. There's more to everyone's story, but I really want to bring this light into this world, which is we don't have to settle. We don't have to wait for these massive wake-up calls. What you want wants you. Because yes, there is more to my story, and so much that I haven't said. But what it really looked like to start, for me, to start that rebuilding from the rubble, and how I continue on to this day, all the skills and the tools and the lessons that I've learned to lead myself through the messiness of it all. So episode 2 is where we'll go deep into that part of the journey. Not just the breakdown, but the slow, deliberate, and sometimes brutal process of choosing myself over and over and over again, even when it's super hard. So if you're still here, thank you. If you listened all the way through, then I want to say this. There's a part of you that already knows it's time. It's a part of you that is seeing a red flag, knowing you're showing up with a mask, a part of you that's overwhelmed, a part of you that's exhausted, a part of you that knows that you want something to create something different in your life. And you actually hold the keys to that. You don't have to do it alone. This can be the beginning of something bigger for you. So I will see you and continue on my story in episode 2. Let's explore how we actually do it.